You already clicked go live. Okay, yes, we are live. Shanae is on her Fashion Nova Men's trend, and I'm so here
Yes.
for this.
Get into the details. And the red
Bonjour!
lip.
And the red
Mm.
lip. Let's go. I have nothing but Charnay. We were on our last call, and I was doing my face because I don't have any
Hmm.
makeup on. The best makeup is good skincare, and
Did you
here
get
I'm gonna reveal it. Y'all ready?
Show it.
mm.
Free brand sponsorship?
Oh, no brand.
Oh, uh, somebody
Mm.
cut a check. We can't even see.
Medicube.
Let me get.
You gotta be like the girlies on the
Let's
Yes.
do it.
You
Oh, here
got
we go.
nail taps.
Metacube.
oh.
It's pattern pink. It's not porn. Doesn't say porn. It says pattern. PDRN. That's
Oh.
what makes the skin all shiny and smooth, y'all. Shiny and smooth.
It's doing great.
Thanks, y'all. There's more to come. Today we are, as you can see, I have changed scenes. We were a little bit late because Alani and I came from a Martha's Vineyard readiness call with some folks from the Sanctum community. Yes, there were good questions. Shout out to Keandra. Can't wait to see you here in a couple weeks. She has her schedule fully packed. And I said, girl, you need some time to rest. The first 2 years I came here, I did not go to the beach once. And like, that's what you're supposed to do when you're here, you know? So that was fun, but we're a little bit late today. And today, Charnay, we're going to be talking. We have two very special guests who are already here. We were chopping it up backstage. I just said, let's go live, who are a part of Sanctum Foundation. And I am so excited today to learn from them, hear from them, and talk all about what is Sanctum, what do people get when they become members. And as Charnay is one of our very first members and one of our very first champions, she's staying on this call. Okay, Charnay.
Don't act like I was trying to run away, but I'm excited that we get to be behind the scenes of Sanctum Foundation, and see the ladies who help make you look good. You know what I'm
Don't they?
saying?
For
Help
real,
me look
though.
good too, low key, low key.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant, 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 beautiful Black women on this call. So let's get into
Yes.
it.
But before we do that, Charnay, it's our first show of the week. So I need to know like how your weekend was.
My weekend was fantastic, but my week has been even better, and it's
Mm.
only Tuesday. So, Noir spent the day with some of our favorite clients.
Mm.
We did some site visits yesterday. Shout out to Boston Ujima and Kensington Corridor Trust. We also went right into Tuesday. Like I spent my morning at with my bae. We got
Mm.
breakfast and did that. And
I
then
forgot we
I went
talked
to
this
the
morning.
yeah, and then
Being on East
I
Coast
went
time is
to
so
the
strange.
I went to the farmers market and I got some beautiful fresh flowers for myself for only $5. Yes, I love
What
it.
kind
I
of
love
flowers
it.
are they? Did you pick them out of the ground yourself? Like what? How is that possible?
I don't even know what they're called, but they're cute. I'll put it in the chat when I figure it out. We'll see
Okay.
what chat says, what type of flower it is. But it's cute. It was $5 for two bundles.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Wow.
wonderful.
Yes. And yeah, so like honestly, it's been a rock star week. It's only Tuesday. And I get to spend my afternoon with you ladies. So I'm just loving life right now and really sitting in a space of gratitude and
Mm.
joy. You know what I'm saying? Like life's great.
Yeah. You definitely seem lighter the last few weeks. Like you have a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Oh, yeah. You
Yes.
know, I'm ready to get jiggy with it. You feel me?
I do feel you. I do. So Charnay, let's start at the beginning. So let's remind the people that you and I met in a space of, and you reminded me of this morning, and I totally forgot about it because we were talking about Martha's Vineyard and how it's very Black here, and how you like hadn't really seen me in this element. it made me realize, like, you're right. A lot of the places that you and I are in are majority white spaces, to the point like
Yes.
where they just kind of like blend in with all of the others. And
Hmm.
I bring that up to say that I think you and I are so used to being around our people because we create those environments for ourselves, like it very intentionally and very proactively. But we also have like we have the personality type to do that, and not everyone does that per se,
Hmm.
right? And so part of what makes Sanctum so great is our membership. We have, over the last year, we've had a solid group of 30 members. We've had over 500 subscribers, but those 30 members, including yourself, Charnay, have created this foundation of community, of communication, of knowledge sharing that I'm so excited to expand in August. We're taking applications right now. We already have a few applicants who we'll be giving news to next week. And we're starting our ReWealth Fellowship at the end of August. But I want to hear from you, like when you are not, and Sanctum is not the only like membership community that you're a part of, but for those who are maybe new to something like Sanctum or new to just joining communities in general, what has been, when you join a community, like what are you usually doing it for and what are you looking for? Or does it depend on the type of community?
It really depends on the type of community, because what I
Mhm.
find is that I haven't found a utopian community yet that checks every single box and every single need. But that's okay for me because I'm such a social butterfly that I crave community and being, um, of service to others as well. So I'm okay with being in multiple communities. But I will say what I love about Sanctum is that I found a tribe
Mm,
that is, how should I say this? A majority of folks I've engaged with in the community are investors. They have a sense of like what impact investing is and kind of um, how that translates into the founder community and entrepreneurial world. But then there's another segment that they don't really know about impact investing. Um, Most of them are founders or really entrepreneurial in their career, but they're eager to connect with folks in the capital space. So again, remember what I said earlier, I personally love to be of service to others, to be valuable in someone else's experience, reach one, teach one type of vibe. And so I love that I get a great mix of like finding my peers, but also connecting with other women who can learn from me and I then can learn from them. I
mm,
also enjoy that it's not just women. Like I've come to some events and I met like Dujan, for example. I
mhm,
met him at one of your very first dinners in Chicago after my Assembly of Black Possibilities, and we were able to collaborate and like partner on a founder initiative in the Philadelphia ecosystem. We were also able to collaborate through my business, Noir Impact. And so that's a connection that I made only through Sanctum Foundation and has since been incredibly fruitful. And also, Dujan is just
mm,
amazing. He's
mm,
an amazing founder, but also a fantastic investor and champion at Accenture. So I say all that to say that it's a great mix of people who are in and outside of my space in the lanes that I play in. And when I'm joining a community, giving my funds and time to a space, I want to make sure that I'm getting something money can't buy. And a
mm,
lot of times it's connection.
mm. Thank you, Charnay. That was so nice.
It's so true.
Wow.
I'm speaking from the heart.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And that is my favorite thing to hear. My entire career, pretty much, even since building sales teams, whenever I get those texts like a year later or 6 months later of like, hey, you introduced me to so and so, and now we're doing XYZ, beyond anything I could have ever imagined, just introducing them, that's like what I live for, quite literally. So,
Mhm.
I'm so glad that happened. And I don't want to, you and I have been talking, but we have not introduced the other two beautiful women in this room.
Yes.
I
Beautiful.
want to leave them out. And can you two please introduce yourselves? Love, since you came off mute first. Thank you.
Now I played myself. Okay. All right, I will start. Hi, everybody. I am Love Soleil, Programs Director at Sanctum. And let's see, where do I start? I'll start with the back end of what I do with Sanctum, and then I'll go into like a little bit more about myself. So with Sanctum, we have been working on some really incredible programming for y'all. Our fellowship, that applications are open and that we're really excited about our membership and just taking it to the next level of like how we can really go from this beautiful community that we have to serving y'all even more. So with that, we have our specific intimate cohorts that we are bringing together where folks are not only going to be able to come and build in community, but then also like we have specific education and curriculum that we are tailoring that is very holistic. Because if I really take it back to one of the things that really attracted me to Sanctum is the fact that when we talk about wealth and money, we're not just specifically talking about fiat currency and that's it. It's like, okay, we need to have the resources to mobilize and community together. And that takes bringing your whole essence, your wholeness, not just like what you do in one aspect of your work. And so for me, as someone who looks for holistic experiences where I can be my full self, to get to create programming and do work that also allows me to express my talents, because y'all, I do a lot of things. We'll get into
She does.
I do a lot of things. So it's like, oh, like in this space where I get to actually share and like my gifts are appreciated because they help build something even more versus like in other corporate places I've had to like really compartmentalize that. So it's the same kind of energy that we bring to Sanctum. It's like, are you an investor? Are you building something? Do you have no clue what's going on, but you have capital, you have resources, or you don't, and you want to know how to steward it better? Or even just to like see like, hey, what are y'all doing over there? Because a lot of the time with money, like everything is silo, hush hush, like we're not going to talk about it. And it's like, no, guys, we ain't going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it in a way that's trauma informed and that really allows us to feel safe while also like doing the work and learning the technical and mechanical skills of the things. So
but let's hold on one second, Love. You are an artist.
Yes.
I want to be clear with our audience that you are an artist. Not only an artist, but you're a producer.
Yes.
And you also have worked with artists to help them with their own financial planning.
Yes.
And that's how we met. Is you approached me with this program that you are doing, and I was like, "Can you help me build this part of Sanctum's Rewealth? Because we have a section specifically around Afro-Indigenous wisdom when it comes to economies. And not only are you so well versed in that, but you have personal experience in collective economies. And I've just been like so fascinated and so grateful to hear your story and how it impacts your work and how like the choices you've been making over the last 2 years have been really rooted in like what are my values. And I would argue that those values have maybe have you making decisions that you didn't think you were going to make 10 years ago.
1,000%. Yeah. When that's so we'll kind of start off a little bit with my artist background. So part of what even got me into the financial space, which then got me here, is that I just knew so many incredible artists. I was producing so many beautiful films, but we were stretched thin and there was always a lack of like resources. And I was like, okay, like we are telling the most incredible stories that are impacting the world in incredible ways, yet we are making the most out of the little that we have. How can we really just have more resources to take this to the next level? So I was like, all right, I need to learn a little bit about finance. I need to get a little education, a little something, and bring it back to the community so we could keep growing and expanding. So I got into like more like traditional financial planning, retirement planning, and I learned so much and I loved it. And I but the issue was it wasn't holistic. Like I really wanted to learn more ways to bring in this kind of like ancestral wisdom to how collective economies worked. I'm first generation American. My parents are Haitian, and there was so much there of like how they came together to like live and to build businesses without banks, without other institutions. And I was like, okay, how can I bring this a little bit into the work that I'm doing and into supporting artists? And so that kind of brought me into the realm of regenerative economics. And I saw how Mandy was doing a lot of work around regenerative wealth, and like I was like, ooh, what is that? Like how can we really embody this collective way of wealth building? So yeah,
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing so much. It's been such a pleasure working with you and having you. And y'all, running Sanctum by myself for a long time, having someone like Love who is so aligned with what we are in terms of our values and is also such a talented facilitator. Oh my God. And also knows her finances. Come on. I'm serious, Love. Like I wake up, I'm like, yeah. Don't F this up, Mandy. Please don't screw this up. And that moves me to Alani, who you have come onto our scene just in the last couple of months. Straight up reached out to me, and Love was like, can I come work for you? And I was like, say less. And then we had our first conversation. So yeah, before I don't want to ruin anything. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please. I'm going to spotlight you.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, y'all. My name is Alani Frazier, and I am the person who does a lot of the media at Sanctum Foundation. So whatever you see on the Instagram, where you see the Rewealth live series shorts, and a lot of the stuff on the TikTok, we're going to update our YouTube. All of that is me. And so I'm a recent graduate from Wellesley College, and currently I'm taking 1 to 2 years to explore the world before going back to school. And what really drew me to Sanctum Foundation is the idea that we can build wealth in alignment with what we care about and in alignment with what we believe in. Me personally, I don't come from a background in my family where people have a lot of wealth financially. You know, we have wealth in terms of, you know, we have a lot of love in the family, but not financially, right? And so Sanctum Foundation will allow me to access the networks and opportunities that I'll need to build wealth that can leave me a legacy. And so I've been privy to seeing the curriculum that Mandy and Love have been developing for the Rewealth Fellowship, which Mandy mentioned earlier. And y'all, it is going to be life-changing because within the fellowship, what you do is you learn the history of wealth and the history of systems, wealth systems in the United States. And then also you kind of learn like, how can I rethink wealth in terms of, if I came from a background that was more scarce, can I see wealth as something that is maybe more abundant, for example? And really just, it's a community and fellowship that allows you to, you know, understand your personal goals and move forward. And so it's just been really cool to watch them build the fellowship. And I hope that if you're watching right now, you'll come and apply and join the cohort, because as the person who does the media, I get access, and I'm just so excited as an early career professional to have all this knowledge. It's a wealth of knowledge. And so, yeah. Also, if you're streaming the Rewealth live series, it's great because we bring on so many cool people who may or may not become mentors for people who are members of Sanctum Foundation, right? So for example, last week we had Monique Woodard, who is the founder of Cake Ventures. Cake Ventures is a fund in venture capital that had $17 million to start with. And that's a lot of money. And Monique is someone who did not come from venture. Like, she graduated college not knowing what venture capital was. And so she's someone who's really made huge strides. And we've literally got to learn from her here on the Rewealth live series. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
You're on mute, Mandy.
Probably for the better. I think it's really important. We didn't prep at all for this call. Like they don't even know what questions I'm asking. They didn't even introduce themselves like before. So this is the first time I'm hearing their version of Sanctum, and it could be because that time of the month, but I'm getting a little verklempt. My throat's starting to hurt a little bit because this is just so cool to hear how this has impacted you. So Lonnie, I'm curious, you know, I've seen your face a few times, and as an early career professional, what is it that you think in a community like this is really important for people who are right out of school?
So me as an early career professional, especially as someone who majored in environmental studies and I kind of want to move into something else that I'm maybe more passionate about, this community will literally give me access to people who are in different fields, careers that I literally would have never thought about pursuing. I didn't know what venture capital was graduating college, and I've learned it starting in June when I joined Sanctum Foundation. And so now, like originally when I graduated, I was thinking, okay, dream is to get a 6-figure job and then on the side do some realty and then I'll be good. But now my horizon has expanded because I'm thinking, okay, I'm understanding like I really like talking with people. I really like leading projects. I really like managing that kind of stuff. Maybe I can become an executive. Maybe I can become a CEO. That's something I would have never thought of had I just, left school, started my salary job, and then ran with it. And so, first of all, it opens up my horizon to what kinds of careers I can pursue. It also opens up my network. Like, I'm meeting really cool people every single day. All 3 of y'all are founders. All 3 of y'all have your own businesses. You run businesses. I don't know if y'all know that sound on Instagram. I don't take clients. I run businesses. But that's what I want to do. This is amazing. And the fact that, you all are Black women, you all are people of color, people who maybe did not have historical access to wealth based on how the wealth systems in the United States worked. I even learned what a syndicate is, what angel investing is. It's basically ramping up my financial education because I'm here. So early career professionals do need to get on this boat, like learn about finances, learn about the opportunities that are out there for you to build wealth and make some money.
Yeah. Gosh, how has your definition of wealth changed over the last few months?
Yeah, I think initially when I thought of wealth, it was more so an individual endeavor. Like you get your job, maybe you can invest in your 401k, your Roth IRA. If you do that, you'll make it to the finish line and you'll be Gucci. But that's not actually all that it takes, because it does take a network. It does take people that you collaborate with to make these business decisions. Like, you're not going to know everything making every investment. For example, if you wanted to invest in healthcare tech, you might not know how to read a company that's in healthcare. How do you know if this company is going to be successful? But say you have a really good friend or a connection in your network who has worked in healthcare for a really long time and has really great insights, you'll be that much more informed making that investment. And so now I do see wealth as something that's much more of a community endeavor instead of an individual endeavor, which is what capitalism usually teaches us, right? Like, you go get your job, you do everything for yourself and maybe for your family, but just the 4 people, not the extended family, right? But now I'm seeing wealth as something that's much more accessible to me and something that's more for the community.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And it's a perfect segue into some of the things that people get as members. Charnay's heard me talk about this, and Love, of course, we've been talking about it forever. But one of the things that was really important to me when building Sanctum is not just having a regular mentorship program, but my first term for it was like, you're going to get an auntie. It doesn't matter what the gender of the auntie is, you're getting an auntie or an unc, whichever. And this person is not necessarily meant to be like a mentor. It's more of like a friend-tor and an accountability buddy is what I would say when I was building sales teams. Because when we get into these spaces, as you all have been saying, it's not just about like redefining or remembering what wealth is to you, but also like how you build in community. And sometimes we need examples of that. And, yesterday I got a text from one of my friend-tors who just texted me saying, "Hi, you are loved." And it like brought a tear to my eye. And I'm like, this is the type of community that I want to continue building with people. And where it's not just about sending me job applications or like grant opportunities. It's also like, hey, I love you and I want you to remember that. And Charnay has been, as someone who like put me on game last year and the year before, ever since I met her around Philadelphia, there's some specific things that you do that make you a really, really great friend-tour. And I want you to,
Do tell, do tell.
I'm
You
gonna
let
invite,
me
well,
know.
here's the thing. So Charnay does not just like give you really important feedback. She'll be like, I'm hearing this about you.
The streets
So
are saying.
the streets. I don't know. The streets don't have a name, but it's just the streets. I just hear. I put my ear to the ground, and this is what I hear. And the way it is given, and like, I'm not doing this to judge you or to make you worry, but hearing your perception is indeed reality. So whether you agree with it or not, like this is what people are saying. And you don't get that a lot, particularly if you're in a corporate role and you're doing those performance reviews and you're all great, but then don't get that promotion. And the higher up you get into these jobs, the less feedback you get. Did you know that, Charnay? I can tell you more.
Well, I didn't know that you appreciated that, but
So
that is
much.
definitely a key Charnayism. You know, I'm gonna keep my ear to the streets at all times. You
Yes.
know,
But also,
but
when you say that you're going to connect people, you actually do it, and stuff happens. And luckily, Charnay is not. She is indeed a snowflake, but she's not the only one who's really, really good at this, and it does take practice. And so, I guess, what are some of the things that you have practiced in your career around, like, I want to make sure that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it when it comes to building community?
Well, first and foremost, the only reason why I try to maintain that standard for myself is because I've been on the receiving end. I've experienced that. And I've come across people who truly have impacted my life or maybe just current situation at that time for all the better because they said they were going to do something and they did it. And so it's really important for me to model behaviors that I find a positive impact in my life. So that's number one. And that's something that I would say I really started being intentional about post grad school. I think, yeah, I've been intentional about that after grad school because I've just been in situations where you're like a big girl now, you're an adult, right? And networking is beyond like, oh, here's my business card. Oh, I'm gonna back in the day, y'all. It's like I'm gonna put your application at the top, or I'm gonna call them and like I know we don't do that now, but
No.
I would say I realized living in DC that, networking can be a game of talk or it can be a game of strategy and like value and your reputation. So that's when I became intentional around it. And that's when I saw the value of, okay, I have community within myself. It's not always about me tapping into someone else's network. What does my own network look like? And how can I make sure that those around me are benefiting from my own personal network? And also, what I realized is that I didn't start out this way, but what I realized really early on is like, I might connect you to someone, but you're not the only person receiving value out of that relationship. On the receiving end, the other person often finds value as well, being in community with you. And I think that's like ancestral, to be very honest with you. A lot of times, human beings want, what's in it for them. But when we look at community as a practice, and when we look at like how our, ancestors got things done, it was because it was that holistic approach that Love talked about earlier. It's like, I am pouring into you. And by pouring into you, I am receiving much more. and we are working together. You know what I mean? We're working in tandem to accomplish, said impact. And it might not be clear at first glance, but trust me, that's how community is built. And then often I find that what I do is so refreshing in a world full of players out here.
Listen,
That people notice. And all I do is say, well, not reach one, teach one, but like you can do that too. Like the best thing you can do for me is to help someone else, to not gatekeep, in the words of Mandy, to gate break, right? To make sure that I'm not the only one out here doing the work, making sure that we have seats at the table or bringing folding chairs to the table that we weren't necessarily invited to. Heck, maybe you're the person that actually creates the new table. So it's important that I'm intentional around this because it really changed my life and it really helped open doors for me in a world where I could see how negative somebody's saying they're going to do something for you and then they actually don't do it.
I do. Yeah. I'm distracted by a 10-year-old sitting across from me eating his cereal very aggressively and my camera is shaking. So, but I did get all of that.
But I'm curious for the Sanctum Foundation team. Like, I'm curious how the young folks on the call, how are y'all leveraging your personal networks? What does connection look like for you in terms of building community, whether personally or as you're helping Sanctum? I think community is relatively personal. Like how I build community doesn't have to be how you build community. So just curious, what are the youngins doing these days? Like, how does this work for the aunties out there?
I see Alani didn't go first, so I'll go. That's a good question. What's interesting about that question? I honestly, until I got a little bit more older, I didn't realize how important community actually was. Like, I think there was so much fending for myself in college, and like even like how I studied art in college, and I got made fun of so much for going to a STEM school and studying art. So I think when I was younger, I had this mindset like I'm gonna figure it out on my own because nobody gets it. And I was so wrong about that because I feel like it held me back, that type of mindset. Because now in the more recent years, when I really was like, oh, like I let go of that kind of mindset and I just opened myself up to like just people and like creating with people and realizing that, like nobody could do nothing by themselves. Like it's just gonna take so much longer, And so I think for me, once that ideology shattered, I started like things just started to happen. So like I would just be talking to people one-on-one and I would share like, what I'm thinking about or like what I'm seeing is missing. There's a quote that I live by, and it's, if you don't see the portal, create the portal. And so I would just share that with people and they'd be like, oh girl, like this person is thinking about this in this similar way. Let me put you all together. And then like I would start having these conversations and then like things would start to expand and opportunities would start to come. And then I was like, wait, like I need to do this for other people too. I know so many dope people doing things and like that could connect them. And so it took me some time to figure that out, but they say better late than never. So now I'm like, oh, like it is so, especially as a founder, it is so lonely trying to do it on your own and like trying to just learn everything off of YouTube is like, you'll take a long time. Like the whole time, like I would be afraid to ask somebody who like I knew would know, but I was like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to like, and then I realized that you're really not bothering people because people tend to naturally humans like to share. Like they like to, contrary to like what a lot of the programming that is put onto us, like we at a heart level like to share and connect. And so when I would start asking, people would be so happy. Like even when I met Mandy, she's like, how can I help? How can I help? I was like, wow, I wasn't used to that question either. Cause I was like, I don't even have an answer for that.
I remember that.
So and specifically being around so many Black women who like we're so nurturing in that way, and like that mindset of like, oh, like what can we do to like help lift you up, and naturally you do that as well. So yeah, that I'm just so grateful that I got out of that like one track mind type of mindset, because now it's up. It's up.
Yeah. But you raised such a good point, Love, and I know you have a question, so I'll let you get back to that. But you raised such a good point when Sanctum first opened up its membership last year, when we first opened up, I got a lot of feedback from people who are joining of like, you're right. I've been in spaces that are majority people who don't look like me for so long that I forgot that we're out here as a community. I forgot that this is not an individualist game. And we all know that that isn't intentional to an extent, or not intentional is what I should say. But that's what you and I went through that too. What you go through early in your career can often be isolating. And as Malcolm X says, it's not our fault that we're in the circumstances that we're in, but it's our responsibility to get ourselves out of it. And doing the work to create community for all of us has meant such huge things. But Love, go ahead. You had a question.
I want Alani to finish on this, and then I'll.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Love, I'm going to say I agree completely that it's important when networking or building community is maybe more what we should say, to talk about what you're thinking about right now.
Mhm.
Like, I know right now a lot of people who are maybe more in my age group, they believe that if you share something about your goals or your future, what's coming up for you, you know, someone might put the juju on you, someone might put the evil eye on you or whatever. I don't believe in that. Like, of course, there's a limit. If you're going on a vacation, don't share that because, you know, that's dangerous. You're going to leave your home. But like, share, hey guys, I've been thinking about how I really want to try this new skill, or I've been thinking about how I really want to go to this new place, because people will surprise you and might be able to help you get there. I just came back from a trip to Spain and I told my whole community I was going. And, you know, people popped out and were like, oh, yeah, I have a cousin who lives there. Do you want to stay with her? I didn't have to buy a hotel for the 5 days I was there. And so in terms of building community, I think it is really important to just share what you're thinking about. And then also be interested in the other person genuinely so that you can give back. Like, it's similar to what Charnay was saying. It's a way to not be extractive. Yeah. And also, wait, I want to add one more thing. It's really important where you meet someone. For example, we're headed to Martha's Vineyard next week, Sanctum Foundation, or, you know, Mandy's already there. So love that. And we're about to meet so many people who are aligned with our values. We want to build wealth together. So put yourself out there, go meet people. That's the first thing.
And here's the thing. This is a skill that you're going to constantly build on. You're going to revive, revamp. It's going to have many different lives. It's going to look different for you. Even Sanctum as a foundation, like this is the first iteration of the community, which is so exciting. But, you know, building community is a muscle, but it's also a flow, right? Because as humans, we need different things at different times. I mean, the world, think about COVID and like how building community changed significantly. Like we're doing this right now because of the pandemic. Like we're gathering on live and making it happen. It didn't always look like that. And so I've been also kind of reading up on the trends, and I would say I'm seeing that the younger demographic, that y'all are starting to crave human interactions a bit more. So the data is showing that brick and mortars are starting to open back up, and in-person things are, you know, revving up in terms of attendees and the amount of people that are coming out to support. And so community goes through different iterations, whether you're building it for a foundation or your personal network, but no matter where you are, that's a skill set that you should learn how to do for yourself. Like have community wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And I just also want to say shout out to this Rewealth Live series, because the way y'all have talked about building community, like I feel like we have multiple master classes in this series about building community. So like y'all tap in, because
How to survive as an extrovert.
Literally. And it's really helpful because I'm a super introvert, but I'm like, oh, like I didn't think about building community in that way, or like, oh, like these are some little tidbits that I could take when I'm in person. So I really just want to shout y'all out for that. And to kind of like pivot a little bit, because I'm curious, I'm always curious about like the why behind things. So I wanted to ask you, Mandy, and going back to what Charnay spoke about creating new tables, what made you specifically focus on community wealth when you were thinking about building Sanctum? Because you have expertise in a lot of places. So I'm really curious about that choice.
Wow, thank you. Again, we didn't prepare, so this question, I'm like, oh, thank you. Yes, didn't even think about that. Or I have thought about this a lot. So there's a few elements they kind of like piled on each other to the point where creating this community was the most important answer. And I had created a community in like a prototype of a community platform in, oh, I got the spotlight too, in 2023. Because I called it the network. Like, we need to continue networking. We have to use the skill of networking as a platform. But more importantly, it came through my journey as both an entrepreneur and an investor. And as you were saying, Love, earlier, like being a founder can be very lonely. And so just being a founder back in 2020, I started networking with a lot of people who gave me a ton of advice. And over that time, my income went down probably every year, but I felt like I became more and more wealthy every year, oddly, even though I was no longer in a corporate role. I had to do a lot of things for myself. And I started to think about, okay, what is this that's happening? And so there's one I noticed that my wealth in community and wealth in social capital increased to the point where I didn't notice that I wasn't making as much income as before. That's one thing. Second thing, I have been in a lot of investment communities over the last few years since I became an investor. And I would look around in these rooms and be like, these people are just okay. Like, I don't see, no shade to really great people, but I wasn't impressed. I was not impressed by this group of people who I thought were like the most brilliant, the most knowledgeable. And so I just went deep on like, what is going on? I already knew a lot about, of course, the systems that keep Black and brown people out of wealth building tools. And when I looked at the numbers around like how Black and brown people have increased our wealth in larger capacities than we have in our history ever, since 2019 to 2022 was like the largest increase in wealth we had. And it was all in real estate. Now, the gap between our wealth and our white counterparts still increased on top of that because of the way that a lot of white folks or white wealth builders had more equities in public companies or in companies that were going public. And so I was thinking about, okay, where's that breakdown? For me, that's exactly what happened. I went public with a couple companies, but because I wasn't around people who were inviting me to these conversations, I didn't right away continue investing in other companies. I did buy real estate, but I noticed that like the people who I was working with were like having wild successes and I didn't know what was going on. I also, when I would come into those rooms where, maybe I would be invited, there wasn't really like it was just like, yeah, I did this and it was so great, invested this company and it was so great. There was no like, but how did you find out about it? Or like, why did you go in that direction? And when I would get around my people who were talking about investing, it was like slightly more transparent, but like not as much. Like the only time we would talk about how much money I was making versus someone else or how much money it costs to invest, it would either be because I brought it up or there was one other person there who just like didn't care and was like, this is how much money I made. This is exactly how I did it. And I'm like, I want to be around more of that person. How do I get that person who's not afraid to say the numbers? Because when we are transparent with each other, it takes away the shame, it takes away the guilt. And now like things happen so much faster. And I did a lot of study around like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Shout out to Muna for talking about that with me. And I'm going on a tangent here, but these are all the things that were involved. Is upside down pyramid. And I'm like, okay, so Maslow's white, and a lot of the things that these white philosophers talk about are usually stolen from someone. So I went back and found that the Black Bear community in Canada are who Maslow stole that from, and it's actually a circle. And I was like, all of our cultures are circular. Not only they're circular, but they're communal, they are within. And whereas Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like, you get rich. This is not exactly what the pyramid is, but basically you make money, then you have self-actualization, then you find out who you are. Whereas in the original one, it's like, we're finding out together. We're all finding out together what our values are. We're all finding self-actualization at the same time, and we're all building wealth together. Sort of like in a long wind, bring this back. I was like, when we're talking about wealth, and if we're going to be increasing our wealth through all of these different things, then like we should be sharing what's working, because that's what we're used to. That's what our people are used to. And when we make things that are individualized or like feel like we have to go on things alone, that's conditioning talking. That's white supremacy talking. Those are conservative values talking. And also being a yoga teacher, like all of this stuff is a continual practice. And I would notice also that when I was in circles around mostly Black people and mostly brown people, the discomfort that we had talking about this stuff together, it was like the more that we would spend time with each other, the easier it would get, but it had to come through a practice and through patience. And so in building Sanctum, the why behind it is like, we can't just talk about money. We can't just talk about how to build these things, because if we don't have the trust that comes before that and the relationships that come before that, like all of it will be for naught. And if that stuff isn't happening like at the very same time, then it's also not going to have a lot of progress. And then I was like, I know so many people. I'm not the expert in any of these things, but I know people who are. And if I have access to all these people, there's no reason other people shouldn't. Very long-winded answer of saying it had to do with a lot, but also around making sure that we go deep into our own networks and that we have everything we need within our networks to do anything we want to do. Shout out to Marcus Glover, who told me that. How's that for an answer?
10 out of 10. No notes. That was good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll go.
Well, I love that you talked about going
Go ahead.
deeper.
Mhm.
No. I love how you talked about going deeper. And I think in a world full of surface level people, if you can show up being in community with one another and you can actually go deep, maybe that looks like being transparent. Maybe that looks like being vulnerable. Maybe that looks like gate breaking. But just know that you can show up authentically as yourself, but it requires you to go deeper. And like I said, in a world full of surface level folks, that's going to set you up for success and you're going to go so far. And I'm speaking from experience. Because one thing about me, I'm going to do my best to keep it real with you. You know
Yes,
what I'm
you
saying?
are. Yes. We're chatting on the side for our audience, and Charnay reminded me of the skate breaking thing, and to give credit where credit's due, which is another practice that I was reminded of when surrounding myself with more Black and brown people. This is from a particular magazine. I'm going to put it in the chat so I don't forget about it. So I'm not talking and opening windows at the same time, but it's a whole outline on how when we practice particularly gate breaking, it's kind of like when we practice anti-racism. When you're practicing anti-racism, you're not ignoring race, you're not pretending it doesn't exist. You're actively saying there is an issue, and everything I do is going to be super thoughtful in being anti-racist. So when it comes to gate breaking, there are so many ways in which we can be gatekeepers and not even realize it. And I noticed this so palpably in the venture capital ecosystem, because a lot of people are the only person at their firm who look like us, or they don't want to squander opportunities by giving more access, which the math don't math, but that's a whole nother Oprah. And so the action of continuing to break gates and give people access is one of the reasons why we have an ecosystem calendar. I know that a lot of people will send me events. They're like, this event's only for you to be invited to. But anytime that's not the case, I am sharing all of these things with everyone who's a part of Sanctum, because all of these events that I go to are not because I'm special. It's just because I met a bunch of people, and y'all should be there too. I'm going to get that link real quick.
Let's sit there for a second. So everyone knows I'm an events girly, been doing event management for like, I don't know, over 15 years. Shout out to Noir Impact. But beyond that, earlier in some lives and shows, we talked about how you can show up at conferences and events, right? And leverage that experience, leverage, yourself, what you're getting from that moment, but what you're offering, really how to move at events. But on the other side of things, what Mandy just mentioned is really an interesting concept. Think about the power you hold by providing access to someone, by not allowing, but just sharing an opportunity for them to attend an event that maybe you're only aware about or you were personally invited to. Now, you don't want to um, disrespect the person that invited you into certain networks or set events, but what does it look like if you can attend, or maybe you can, but what does it look like either way to contact the organizer or the friend or colleague who invited you to an exclusive event or just an event period, and share that opportunity with someone that you know could truly value that experience? It can be life-changing for some folks, and it's just a small gesture, likely no cost to you. Um, Maybe a little bit of your social capital, but hey, that's what it's there for. You got to cash in. And these are everyday things that people can do, whether you're a mentor, a friend tour, or any other tour that Mandy comes up with. You can use your own power and your own social capital to impact someone else's proximity and access. And it can be as simple as inviting them to a conference you were invited to, or an exclusive event, VIP networking, sideline situation, or after conference kickback. Because these are where deals are getting done. And these are where, you kind of get to meet a group of people that someone else wouldn't have had access to.
Mm-hmm. The trust is built through generosity. And as you said, Charnay, inviting people to events that you were invited to costs you nothing except like a question to the organizer, be like, is it okay? Are we oversold? Which usually people aren't. And then getting a chance to see that event through other people's eyes can also be eye-opening to you as the person who invited said friend or said T, friend T, mentee.
Listen, I'm speaking from experience. Just recently, we were in New Orleans.
We were
in New Orleans. I was in a lot of spaces. My name was not on that list. Okay?
Facts.
All right?
And now it is.
At the Four Seasons.
And you were staying at the Four Seasons too. I had to stay down the street. But we were there. We were
there. But most importantly, due to relationship building, ecosystem building, was able to, utilize partners and folks that are genuinely supporters of me as a human. And it's like, hey, I was invited to this exclusive VIP event, and you're doing great work in the community, and you've connected me to so many people in the past. Like, come with me. And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to be that girl at the line, because they definitely were like, oh, ma'am, you're not on the list. But you know what? One of those stakeholders stood there like, listen, call who you need to call. Like, she's with me.
Mhm.
you know, whatever needs to happen. And I appreciated that wholeheartedly. And you know, I'm not saying that you have to bulldoze your colleagues' way into a VIP event at the Four Seasons every single time. But what I am saying is that one simple gesture that was at no cost to the person who shared that opportunity with me, it critically impacted, you know, my scenario. And I was
Mhm.
able to meet a lot of people there and follow through on possible collaborations. And so I'm not saying it was life changing because it wasn't, but it definitely had an impact, a positive impact. And so that's again something that impacted me positively. So now I'm going to try to pay that forward with someone else. And
Mhm.
Mandy did the same thing for me, low key in Austin, you know.
Oh yeah. Yes,
So,
yes.
you know, I'm not gonna name no names because I might need to,
Yes,
but
we do have to be sensy. But yeah,
yeah, we
I
do have
think
to be sensy, but
it it
yes.
it brings back, and I can't believe we're already out of time. Whew. The thing that if you're watching this now and have somehow watched this whole thing, you've noticed we've hardly talked about 401ks. We've hardly talked about, you know, how much money we have in an high yield savings account, although I imagine we all have them and we know about them. And when we do have those conversations, they're not weird or awkward. And it is in part because we are level setting of like, we're building trust so that we can pass opportunities to each other. And this practice of passing opportunities to each other is like a basis for better understanding these financial decisions because your friends are doing it. And I don't want to compare us to conservative values. And we all know that those deals are happening on the golf course or they're happening at the country club. And we don't have to assimilate to those environments to be able to create communities that build wealth and our type of wealth built on our value. And so within this community, and I know there's a bunch of other communities that can be joined, and the people who are in this community and have been for the first year are all these community builders who are all practicing this type of wealth building. So I'm terrified, honestly, of the success that we're going to have, which I think is some of our biggest fears. Like we're afraid of our success. I'm terrified of the success. And I'm, but also very excited to see what comes out of the next 6 months when we have this new cohort of 30 people and then another 30 people on top of that. So if you have questions or want to reach out to anyone on our team, I thank you so much, Charnay, for sticking around and helping out with this and asking us great questions, and for Love and Ani for joining this team and for being a part of this. Does anyone have any last final words before we let the people go today?
Thank y'all for watching.
Yes. And I want to close us off with a little song that Charnay gave us, but I think it's the perfect vibe to end off this live.
Okay. See y'all on the other side.
DJ Love in the building.
Oh.